Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your weekly DMV sports update. And I am your host, Seawall, checking in as I like to do every so often. In a good week, it's every single week to give you the latest and greatest on the hot topics happening in DMV sports. As you all are checking in to the live discussion portion of this, we have to get into some of the housekeeping items now, don't we, everybody? So let me go ahead. Let's get into the housekeeping items. This is a live Bowie television recording. Everything we say and do here will, in fact, end up on the television screen. Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77, giving you all of the latest and greatest information on the Washington Commanders and the DMV sports scene as a whole. The Culture from the Couch series, you can absolutely catch it there for sure. Love button, fire emoji. If you are just tuning in, you see that Mama Waller has already checked in. Pops Waller will check in momentarily or at some later point. And when he's watching the replay, I see Kamren Mingo has already hopped on. We have a quick Mystics update. And then the most of this is going to be Washington Commanders. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, John Adams, it's going to be mostly Washington Commanders. So hit that love button, share this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. Just a really quick Mystics update, but most of it is Commanders. I see my soror Karen Willis has jumped on as well. Share this show for sure, mostly with the Commanders family, because that's what the bulk of the content will be this evening. Share it, hit the love button, drop a fire emoji already so that we don't waste any time, but we never waste any time now, do we? Let's get into the updates. Quick Mystics update. The Washington Mystics are taking on the Las Vegas Aces 10 p.m. Eastern because they're out in Vegas. Here was a moment of OMG. For the first time ever, there was a clean bill of health. There was nobody on the injury report. And then we got an updated injury report earlier today that had Brittany Sykes as questionable with a non-COVID illness. But let's be very clear about something, you all. For the moment, there was absolutely no one on the Washington Mystics injury report. Can we get a love button for that? Can we get a fire emoji for that? Someone to see not a name on the injury report was amazing. Let's also say this. The Mystics have shown you all the team that they are when everyone is healthy. The team that they are with Elena Deladon and Shakira Austin on the court. Whoa. Right? And so that is what this team has been missing. I have been talking about this throughout the season and saying, here's the reality. The Mystics are hurt. They're injured. And this is why you will always hear me say, barring any injury, because listen, when the Mystics are fully healthy, when they have all of their players available, they are on fire, literally. And they show you, shows up each and every single time. So more to come from the Washington Mystics. Hopefully some things get turned around in their season. Now that they have players back, it remains to be seen. So, Commanders fans, jump on in, love button, fire emoji, because truly the rest of this conversation is for you. So, in the live discussion earlier this week, we talked a lot about the preseason. We talked about what to expect. What is everybody thinking about going forward? And we also talked about the tough time that it is in just dealing with the overall roster cut season, right? It's just a tough time for all parties involved. But the roster is set. practice squad set, signings continuing as injuries are further emerging and all of those things. So we have a roster and we're getting ready to go through it. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to get into the roster, and then we're going to get into Coach Rivera and Martin Mayhew's press conferences. And then we're also going to get some highlights in from practice this week. So, first things first, full roster right here. Full roster right here. We're going to get into you all's thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the chat. Drop your questions in the chat. Drop your thoughts on your bold season predictions and how you're feeling about this overall roster, Commanders fans. Absolutely want your thoughts here. We know that some players have now hit IR, other things going on, but let me know how you're feeling. This is your offense right here. How are you all feeling? I know that there were folks that had some thoughts about Jake Fromm not being on the initial 53, but he is on the practice squad. Jake was coming back, everybody. There was nothing to be alarmed about. I also know that there was some feelings about Jaret Patterson being cut, and Jaret Patterson is not on the practice squad. The team also released Derek Gore, but he is now on the practice squad. So looks like the Commanders went with 3 running backs. Jonathan Williams hit IR. So 3 running backs and 1 on the practice squad. Here are your wide receivers. 7 receivers. Mitchell Tinsley, who everybody was like, I don't know about Mitchell, right? But there was a name who was absolutely, rightfully so, was continuing to come up all throughout training camp. I will be very transparent with you all that I was like, I don't know how I feel about Mitchell after the preseason game against the Ravens, but Mitchell improved and got a roster spot. I want to talk about the tight end position. Let's talk about it. And I'm going to go to the chat here in a moment, but I want to talk about the tight end position, specifically Curtis Hodges. You all may have seen me post that I was shocked that he made the roster, and I was. Coach Rivera mentioned in the presser about Curtis basically being in his rookie year, missed all that time last year, and it was just a player that they couldn't afford to lose. So here we are. So looking at this again, I see Kamren's congratulatory remarks to Mitchell Tinsley. John Adams feeling extremely optimistic. Eric Jessup has his thoughts too on, and I want to talk about the Dax Milne. We've talked about this and we've shared this before with, I believe, with you all before we jump into the defense about Coach Cazor's thoughts on special teams and what they look for in special teams. He said the first thing they look for is control of the football. Control of the football, control of the football, control of the football. And then they look at other things like the mechanics and the explosiveness and all of those things. So Dax didn't get beat out. I mean, let's just all be for real. Dax did not get beat out of his position. He did not. In terms of running back, that's a strong group. Jonathan Williams with the IR. We know that Derek Gore signed right at the beginning of training camp. So they had it was a numbers game at the end of the day. They went with 3 running backs: Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, Chris Rodriguez Jr., their rookie, and then they ended up signing Derek Gore to the practice squad. It's a numbers game. Everybody can't get in, but when you start to really look at the actual position groups and what the coaches have said and what they've mentioned of what they're looking for, what they're expecting to see, then you already know who's going to be in and who's going to be out based on what you've seen, based on how they've shown improved in preseason and what the needs are of the team. That's kind of just how it goes. If you are just tuning in, you are watching the Coaching from the Couch series weekly DMV sports update. I'm your host, C. Wall. We've already covered the Mystics. That was our first update. Now we're getting into the Washington Commanders as they have set their roster for the 2023-2024 season. And then we know the regular season starts next week. There's a lot to discuss. If you just jumped in, hit that love button, drop a fire emoji. Let me know that you are in the building. Just as I now see that Bernard Plummer's in the building. He likes this roster and can't wait to see what how ends up being. Totally agree with that. Can we move on back to the initial 53, specifically defense and special teams? Take a look here. We know that there's some injuries. F.A. Obata is on IR. We know that Fedarian Mathis, which is anticipated to be short-term IR, has gone to IR as well. Just take a look. I want to know your thoughts. Drop in the chat. And I didn't want to do the whole schedule thing today because I might do it next week when I got some of my media friends joining me to talk through the schedule and each one of these games and giving each one of them kind of a outlook on what they're thinking and just overall. So again, barring any injury, I think the Washington Commanders are in a good spot. I think they're in a good spot. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share some highlights with you all. Let's go ahead and get into some of the clips from Coach Rivera and Martin Mayhew's press conference from earlier this week after the initial roster was set. Definitely drop your questions in the chat. Let me know what you think about their feedback.
For both of you, I'm curious of how this is the initial 53. How fluid is this right now, and how much do you think it could change between now and tomorrow, and even now and next Wednesday?
Yeah, it's a very, very fluid process. Very fluid process. I mean, our 53 right now is what it is now, but it's an ongoing process. They laid the wire out tonight. Our pro department is scouring that. We're looking for that. We're always trying to get better. We're always trying to get better. Today is no different than any other day as far as that. We'll be working toward that goal for the next week or so.
No, and I agree with what Martin said, because again, it has to be fluid just because of the waiver wires, and just the communications that are going on right now.
And that,
I think the biggest thing with Mitchell was it was from day one, you just saw it. Whether it was when we started back in OTAs on the rookie camps and all that stuff that we had, and then we saw it from the beginning of training camp, and he just progressed and progressed and progressed, and he was a young man that we really felt pretty confident about his growth and development.
And at tight end, you guys end up keeping Curtis Hodges. What was it? Obviously, you had him now for more than a year, but why did you decide he had to stay with you guys right now?
Well, he really didn't practice last year. That's part of the problem. And so when you look at it for us, that's a rookie right there. I mean, this is a young man that's got a tremendous skill set. His physical traits are very difficult to find. And, just getting an opportunity to practice this year completely was a good thing for him. So, again, we feel that this is a young man that has an ability. We'll see how it grows and develops. But players like that are very difficult to find.
Possibly over.
No, it doesn't. And Martin can tell you as well, because getting cut's not a pleasant thing. It's because at that point, yeah, you're right. It is over, or potentially could be over for good. So, I try to make sure you give them a little dignity, to give them a really appreciative thank you, so they know that you appreciate the effort. And then we want to make sure that they visit their position coach, their coordinators, and again, we want to make sure that we say thank you the right way.
Ron, center was a position that had a lot of attrition last year, cutting Tyler Larson and kind of only keeping two true centers. Is there, what went into that decision, and how comfortable are you with Ricky as kind of the backup there?
Well, I think the biggest thing more than anything else is we like the position flex that we have. He's a solid stop guy who we feel really good about right now. And as Martin stated, this to the question, this is fluid right now. We're not done with anything potentially.
kind of growth have you seen in Sam? And do you feel like he's now the long-term answer to your best quarterback? I know we ask you that every year, but what do you see from that?
Yeah, well, Sam's been outstanding. Going back to when I first saw him live was at the Amish Pro Day a couple years ago, and one just the confidence in himself to go out and throw in pro day. You don't see that very often. I've been to a lot of pro days. You see a lot of quarterbacks who are coming up the next year stand and watch, but he went out and put it on the line in front of everybody. Did very well that day. You see the arm strength, the accuracy. He's continued that since we got him. We've seen, as I mentioned to you guys before. I know you guys only saw the one game, but we saw him throughout the entire process. From when he started here, rookie mini camp, training camp, and the season. So he's been exceptional. And the one thing I'll say, the arm strength, like I said, the accuracy, the decision making. The one thing he does really well, I think, has been sort of not talked about as much as he has the ability to create things off schedule. Things break down. He has the athleticism to get out of the pocket, find the guy down the field, or scramble for a first down, make it happen. You saw that in the preseason so far, and a lot hasn't been talked about that. But he's really athletic, really athlete too. And the boys, that first preseason game, the first two drives don't go well. I've seen guys go in the tank. He came out that third drive and showed what he's all about. So I have a lot of confidence in him. A lot of faith in him. I think we all do.
Tricky. How valuable is Eric being in his communication then and making sure you bring in the right young guys for this new scheme?
Eric has been great as far as communication and what he's looking for, different traits, different positions. He did a really good job with his evaluation before I draft this year. And he's been helpful going forward. I mean, some of the guys that we picked up throughout the offseason, like Byron Pringle, with Eddie Kansas City, with Eric, identify.
Listen, I feel as though, I mean, we got a lot out of that. But we got to move on to another conversation. I got to show you some more highlights from practice. But overall, I think it was pretty straightforward, you all. I wasn't shocked by anything. I mean, the question from Ben Standing from The Athletic about Curtis Hodges, that was the only question that I had. Everything else I was aware of. I knew, I saw in camp, I saw in practice. Not shocked at all by any of the decisions that were made. That was the only one. And so I said, okay, from a physicality, athleticism perspective, Curtis Hodges is a player that they really, 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 really like. And they're really, really putting in the effort and the time to see him further develop. So for that, I'm going to trust that of the talent evaluators and the coaches. I mean, this is Eric Bieniemy's offense. So, hey, this is who he wants on his active roster. I'm going with whatever EB and the talent evaluators say. Is what it is. No challenges there. If you are just tuning in, you are watching the Coaching from the Couch series weekly DMV sports update. I am your host, C. Wall. This comes on every single day on Bowie Television, Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77, every day from 1:30 to 2:30. And you can watch the live discussion and take part in it all throughout the week. Bowie TV on YouTube, where all of the pressers, all the other content is as well on C. Wall Sports and Entertainment. Are y'all still there? Are you still with me? Because here's the other thing about all of this. If you all don't mind me sharing, and I'm making sure you all can still see me. Can you all still see me? Listen, let me just tell you all this. If you haven't noticed, everybody is really excited about one thing. Love button, fire emoji, if you would like to know what that one thing is. Why don't I go ahead and tell you? But that one thing that everybody is really excited about. Players got a few days off. Now, I've taken it upon myself, even though we were still doing the show, I've taken it upon myself to already be off. But these next couple of days are good. You all, training camp was a ride. That was a journey. It was rough. It wasn't no yay. So I think players and coaches alike are really going to enjoy these next couple of days off, which I hope that they do. With that being said, let's go ahead and check out the highlights from camp. Definitely had a few camp highlights, and you can share them with you all here.
you finally found out he made it?
I mean, I knew he made it by his performance. He played one heck of a game. It was really cool to watch him watch to see him do that. But yeah, I knew he was ready for the moment. The way he practices every day, he comes in and makes plays. Like he should be a starter in this league. So I had no doubt.
Is there a different vibe kind of in this locker room now that it is down to the 53?
A little bit. We're ready for week one. We're ready to play a different opponent than ourselves. And we're ready to put some wins on the board. So, it's going to be an exciting time. I know this team is super eager to get out there on the field and just fight for one another.
Before week one, though, you get a nice 4 days off. What are you doing?
I'm going to go check out Penn State this weekend, see the first game of the year. I haven't got back there in a while, so go check that out. And probably play some golf with Charlie.
Are these 4 days of much needed rest and relaxation?
Yeah, for sure. It's probably the only rest we'll get till about December, bye week. So you gotta take it all in, make sure you get your body back ready to go for week one and the rest of the weeks ahead because it's a long season. So you gotta prepare, get your mind right. So I think it's a good break for us.
Does it feel different being in the locker room now? Like a year ago, it's all new, and now your experience, you've been around these guys. Does it feel different in that way?
I feel like I adapted pretty quickly. The guys helped me with that, bringing me in, treating me like family. So I feel like, it's a little different. Obviously, I got that first year under my belt, but I feel like I adapted pretty fast.
I feel like last year the locker room was so key for you guys when you had some tough times. Yeah. Everybody kind of stayed level. Yeah. How important was that, and how important is that going to be, this year?
Yeah, that was super big for us, and I feel like that was the reason, we got to win a lot of games in a row. Because the locker room just came closer together. We realized that it was one thing that we all wanted, and that was just win. So I feel like we all came together, and I feel like we have that in this locker room right now. A bunch of guys who are hungry for wins. I feel like we got a pretty tough group.
Thank you. So before week one, you get a nice 4-day break coming up. What are you doing?
I'm just chill, I ain't gonna do too much. I'm vibing.
All right, so just chilling for 4 days. Is this the rest and relaxation that you needed before week one?
Oh yeah, for sure. After this training camp, I need to just chill. You know what I'm saying? Get my legs back so I can fly around week one.
I know sometimes in training camp you've said in years past that you kind of get beat up a little bit. It gets exhausting. How are you feeling after this one?
This one it was good work. You know what I'm saying? It was a little hard, but I feel like we got through it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got better. You know what I'm saying? We learned the game plans. It was in the playbook. Learned all the plays. I feel like it was a good training camp this year.
What's the vibe like in this locker room now that you do have the 53 here? Is it a little more chill, a little more relaxed?
Yeah, a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just a little more empty, you know what I'm saying? It's just feel like, I don't know, but it's just a little more chill.
So, are you sad about the emptiness? You seem a little like you're feeling something here.
We've been going at it, since April, you know what I'm saying? So when guys leave, you always gonna feel some type of way, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is, NFL, it's cutthroat.
Perfect.
Listen, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Shout out to Darrell. He was holding it down for the Bowie TV sports family. Because I was not at practice. So it was great to get that perspective because that I know that is something that I've continued to share that in Kamren said it, they've been going at it since April. This isn't like it just started. This has been a ride. And so once that time goes away with, it's kind of like, all right. I mean, you're happy that the season has started. They're happy about the break, but it is emptier, it's more empty, it's more space in there. And I always just want to try to get folks to understand the camaraderie that is built, what happens in real life in these spaces, that they build a family, they're brotherhood. This is hard. They're putting their bodies on the line each and every single day to do something that they love and do something that's a dream. And some get to stay, some get to leave or have to leave. Some get to stay, some have to leave. And it's up and down. But either way, are there any questions? Let me know, because guess what? Then everybody's going to be off for a couple days. Let me say this right now. There will not be a Washington Commanders update live next week But there will be a special next Thursday. I know Thursday night football starts. We're going to start a special. That's when we're going to do our season predictions and season previews. And you already know what it is with me. I'm going to bring some friends. We're going to have some friends and we're going to say, hey, friends, what are your perspectives on the season? And I'm smiling because my friends, I told some of them I was going to do this. And then I was talking to a couple today, I was talking to my big brother, Lake Lewis. And I said, well, I did all that talking to Lake. And I'm already telling y'all one person, I'm going to ask him if he's free. Come on. So we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time. And I hope everyone is excited. There's a lot of conversation about everything surrounding this team in the stadium, the team, absolutely. And I'm looking down right now because I do want to share with you all what the team has shared in terms of their upgrades to FedEx Field. $40 million being invested into significant upgrades to the stadium for the overall fan experience. If you all recall, one of the things that Josh Harris shared publicly with the fans, with the alumni, with the staff, with the media, is that he cares a lot about the overall experience. So it's happening. It's here. New ownership is already, they already making it do, it's a lot. And it looks like, to Mazdak's question, I think they're doing it now. I think these upgrades are going to be, yeah, upgrades, significant upgrades, fan experience for this season. And it looks like, yeah, I'm reading the press release that they're fast tracking this bad boy. Absolutely. hmm They're fast tracking it. And so welcome to week one, whenever that happens, right? So we'll have the list and all of those things when it is time. And I know you all are excited. Week one should be, well, not even should. I think they've added now some standing room tickets and seats for week one. If you all have been paying attention at all to NFL Network, the news overall, the Arizona Cardinals, I have to go back and look because the roster that I have is clearly not the roster that is going to be playing on week one against the Commanders at FedEx Field. Because I'm not even sure who plays for that team right now because they're going through a gazillion injuries and just a lot of unfortunate things happening with that team. So we'll see. But you all, we have come to another week of the weekly DMV Sports Update, coaching from the couch. You all, thank you for joining in as you do each and every single week. You can still watch the replay. You can still share this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. And listen, next week will be a big one. So you definitely don't want to miss it. I'll talk to you all again soon and be safe. Have a wonderful holiday.